everybody, it's Jess Selove and...
Nathan, also Selove.
Yeah, he took my name.
With... No, you took my name.
Well, it's my name now, but I share it with him.
Okay. With another episode of You Might Be Autistic If.
And since a lot of you are observant, as we know from the comments, you will probably recognize that we are wearing the exact same clothes as last week's video and the same makeup and the same hairstyle. And that's because, secret of the trade, we're filming this on the same day. And so we filmed 2 introductions.
Wait, we are? Oh my god, I'm wearing the exact same clothes as I was exactly a week ago. That's right, sometimes we make an extra long video so I can have 2 weeks of videos. So this is a continuation of what we had filmed last week, but it's still all the same fun, all the same enjoyment, and all the same disclaimers. Don't forget, just because you relate to some of these doesn't mean that you are autistic, and just because you don't relate to some of them doesn't mean that you aren't autistic.
You met one autistic. You met one autistic. If we mispronounce your user handle, we do apologize, and we will try our best to get it right the next time. If we still get it wrong, feel free to let us know, hey, you messed up again, and we will apologize again.
All right, let's get started.
All right, this is all still from Marshmallow Prince Zev. If you collect things that people deem as too old to collect, like dolls. Why don't you take the lead on this? I'm terrified of dolls.
It depends on your definition of dolls. I mean, I guess I was one of those, when I was a kid, I was one of those, macho boys who were like, it's not a doll, it's an action figure. But I actually did have a big collection of Star Wars action figures that I still have in the basement. And when we have a place, I'd love to put them out and display
I was
them.
not privy to this information before we got married.
Yeah, she wasn't, but it's okay.
I'm not doing that.
I'll do it. It's okay.
You find yourself identifying with the autistic protagonist in a book. Yes, autistic protagonists exist in books and movies and TV shows and quite frequently aren't named as autistic.
Yeah, hashtag just say they're autistic.
One of the things that helps me is, especially if I'm reading something that is fiction, that is more an alternate universe maybe, or it's something that takes place in the past, what I like to imagine is that the person is autistic, and if people understood the criteria of autistic and how it behaved, then they would be diagnosed and everyone would call them autistic, but that the term doesn't exist for that. Yeah. And it kind of helps me because no one is saying they're not autistic.
Yeah. It's like Drax, from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nothing goes over my head. I am too quick. My reflexes are too quick.
I would catch it. Still Marshmallow Prince Zev. You might be autistic if you lurked on Wrong Planet to see if your experiences were actually autistic. Yeah, actually, Wrong Planet is a great resource for any of you that are either already know you're on the spectrum or are considering whether or not you might be on the spectrum, for support, community support, information, and also suggestions from Autistics for Autistics. If you had trouble with regulating and understanding your own emotions, I'm always aware of my own emotions. I'm really good at that. I'm very self-aware.
Nathan, don't lie.
I'm not lying. I genuinely don't know.
I know. So it's a thing that Nathan and I will sometimes have come out when we're talking, where I'll have to point out to him and stop and say, you're defensive about this. And he'll say, no, I'm not. Which, again, body language for other people, that might not mean they're defensive, especially autistics. That is Nathan's defensive posture.
I'm not sure if that's always the case. I think sometimes you do that when I'm just trying to give myself a hug.
But it is true that going back to how autistics are often viewed as not emotional, sometimes it takes a longer time to process emotions and even understand what you're feeling. Yeah. That's true for anyone in certain circumstances, but definitely I think for autistics there's almost a delay between what you're feeling and whether that gets sort of communicated to your consciousness.
If you worked really hard to regulate your emotions and still feel like you are just a bad kid like they said you were, actually that's one thing that I definitely do relate to. When I was in kindergarten through 3rd grade, I got in trouble a lot. I got minutes off recess a lot because I acted up. And a lot of the time I was acting up because it was kind of hard for me to control myself. And it was actually in 4th grade when I specifically decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start, spending time controlling myself.
Yeah, I definitely, as a girl, I kind of learned how to mask my behaviors a lot earlier because you sort of have to survive the expectations put on you at that age.
Yeah.
And it comes at a great cost. I was a total anxious mess. And when I would get home from school, I would actually like bounce around, throwing myself on things and jabbering away just because I could not control myself.
If your autistic friends ask if you are autistic because they can tell, or your autistic boyfriend / future husband, darling.
You and your family kind of sat me down. Like,
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, this is an intervention. This is an intervention. I'm sorry, girl, but you ain't neuro.
Yeah, Nathan and his family, his parents, kind of gently told me I was autistic, and it took me a while to understand that because being autistic, I don't like change, and it takes a lot for me to get used to changing how I perceive myself, and so I had to do a lot of research and took some time and just took a lot of time to process that and then deal with my presentation and dealing with the confrontation from other people that might say, oh, I don't think you're autistic, or you're not autistic, I refuse to accept that. So if anybody is autistic, it is true that after realizing I was autistic, and I've noticed a lot of autistic people realize that because they've researched it, they can kind of recognize it in other people, and that's great, but do be aware that sometimes people are not ready to hear that, or it might not be appropriate, so kind of think about whether your relationship with that person is such that it is okay for you to ask them if you could offer some insight that you might have into them, or into their personality.
When your hyperfixes end up becoming your life's goals and career. Yep. I guess that's kind of what happened for me. I'm very fascinated with public speaking, and that's my special interest. And now I teach it to people, so I get to spend all day talking to people about how to speech good.
Nathan is also driven to perform. He really loves performance, and that's a huge...
What are you talking about?
That's a huge part of being an effective teacher, is performing things in a way that keeps people engaged in the material.
Thomas Caswell, you might be autistic if you cannot stay home for an extended period of time due to anxiety or sensory issues.
Yeah, that's a thing that is really, really hard in the best of times. I know I have experience, and I know that there are plenty of autistics where being home for different reasons can be an overwhelming experience. It could be where you live. It might be noisy or crowded, or you might have roommates, or a very boisterous family, or it could be other things, maybe like difficult dynamics or relationships to navigate, and that's really hard that you can't do what might be normally escape for you, going to work or school or to the library, whatever it is that you do that helps you escape from that. If you have any control over your environment at all, and there are things that you can look into to manage maybe external sensory issues, I would encourage that, whether that means, noise canceling headphones, if that's something you can stand to have on your head and also can afford, or maybe if you live with people that are respectful, you could say, hey, can we make it a rule where after 11 p.m. we keep the noise down, just so that we can all be thoughtful about the noise, and you can offer something in exchange, like I will make sure, since I'm an early riser, that I don't make great noise until 10 or 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a really hard situation, and it's kind of something you have to look at what you can control and what you can't, and I just feel really sorry for anyone who's experiencing that right now, because it's especially difficult because you can't get away and get breaks from it. Meg Louie said, "You might be autistic and lonely if normally you don't like being close to people, but right now you just want to be on the same couch as someone while you both do your own separate activities." This is sort of different feeling than we had before from Thomas Caswell, because it really is not a normal time. And so even though we might just want the comfort of somebody else sitting silently next to us, we might not be able to get that. I would just recommend, if you have friends or family that are pretty good about understanding what you want and being okay with accommodating you, that you could maybe set up phone or Zoom dates where you say, you know, you check in and go, "Oh, hey, hi," and then put it next to you on the couch or wherever you can hear it and read or work on whatever you have to do. And occasionally you can, you know, say something if that's how you would normally interact. I don't know if the feeling of somebody else there doing their own thing and kind of hearing that in the background as they move paper or if they're cooking or something, it maybe would be helpful.
Yeah, sometimes it is kind of nice, like even when it's like with couples, for you all to be like in the same space but just doing your own thing for a bit, because even though you want to be with someone, you might not always want to be doing something with that person.
And this last one for this video is from Ben Hackett. "You might be autistic if physical distance and distancing and lack of emotional greetings seems normal, and you're enjoying being able to walk your dog without half a dozen people trying to pet your dog and have conversations with you."
Yeah. I definitely, as a service dog partner, that's a big one for me, because people just kind of stay away from me as much as possible. Like, even when I do go out in public, people assume that, you know, if they pet Blake, that they're going to put themselves at risk, which they probably would be, because I pet her a lot.
They'd be close to.
And they would be closer to me. So it's actually kind of been, in that regard, it's been nice. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the coronavirus epidemic is a good thing. It is obviously not a good thing, but that part's been kind of nice.
Yeah, also, another thing, I saw someone talking about how they loved restaurants and they missed going to restaurants. And I definitely, you know, my favorite restaurants, their food, that's amazing. Great, I miss that. And if I can't get it for takeaway, that's really sad. But I don't miss going out to a restaurant and sitting there with other diners around and trying to navigate making sure that I am overly enthusiastically thankful, because I'm worried that the server might not understand. I truly do appreciate what they're doing for me, and I worry that they will feel dismissed or that I'm being curt with them.
And that is the rest of the You Might Be Autistic gifts for today's video. Thank you so much to everybody who left comments down below to give us suggestions for these. If you have any more You Might Be Autistic gift suggestions, please feel free to comment them down below. If the comments get deleted by YouTube, they will still go to my email, so I will still be able to read them. So thank you to all of you. Hope to see more of those. And if you like this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Check out some of my other stuff. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, support me on Patreon.
And remember, if you have had the same pair of pretty much your only shoes for the last 4 or 5 years, or if you have a lot of shoes that you can't get rid of because you love them, you might be autistic.